episode 1, we looked at the history of Battlefield. Now, it's time for the main event. Battlefield 3 is a big-budget shooter sequel in the year of many big-budget shooter sequels. But for DICE, while it may be the next number along in name, the goal is to set a benchmark for the next generation of shooters in-game. But what does that actually mean?
99 problems, but a bitch ain't one. If you having girl problems, I feel bad for you, son. I got 99 problems, but a bitch ain't one. Hit me!
We're looking at almost every area in the shooter genre right now to see, first of all, what is a great shooter? A great shooter is, of course, if we look at the core of a shooter, it's the shooting and running and gunning experience that needs to be, rock solid. It's also looking at everything around that, the experience of being in this environment. And what is the game that you're trying to make? We're trying to make a somewhat authentic experience. So how do you do that? Well, you need to have everything look right. It needs to sound right. It needs to behave in a realistic or an authentic way.
Make sure you have positive ID before you engage.
And gaming hasn't really taken a big leap the last couple of years, I would argue.
Battlefield 3 is the first game in the series to release on PC and console platforms simultaneously, and leading development on PC has, for DICE, been key.
People are used to games not really pushing the bar when it comes to technology, because you're kind of used to seeing what you saw last year, and now it's the same but in a new environment, and we refresh a couple of things. But no one has really tried to make it better. What does that mean? What does a new animation system mean? We've been learning a lot by reverse engineering it back to the console. So kind of taking it all out there and then backing home again has been a really good lesson for us on what we can actually do with consoles. And then of course for the PC owner, if you spend a lot of money on buying a super expensive computer, you will actually get something.
One of the many reasons gamers are so hyped for the game is how visually impressive it's looked in demos. And much of that hard work is being done by a new engine that's been years in the making, Frostbite 2.
Well, the project has been ongoing for more than 3 years actually, and the challenge is of course, building the Frostbite 2 engine was a necessity to even build this game, because we looked at, the initial plans for the game were so kind of extreme, if you would call it that we can't build this game with the current technology. Well, we could have, but then we have to scale down on a lot of things. We had a lot of focus on character movement and visuals and stuff like that to honestly take it to the next level. What the Frostbite engine does is that it allows us to stop thinking about technology. It's not as much about what we can build, it's more about what we want to build. We can do everything from tight infantry, indoors, dark environments to very open, bright, forest environments and flying jets and shooting tanks. So the limitations are kind of gone.
Just before our visit to Sweden, Battlefield 3 did a brief tour of duty at Gamescom in Germany. Showered with awards, it was also named Eurogamer's Game of the Show, but we thought it only polite to hand-deliver the prize.
Well, this is a very, very special occasion, and a special occasion that warrants special gloves as well, because one of the main reasons we are in Stockholm is to present DICE with Eurogamer's Best Game of Gamescom 2011 award, as voted for by all of the Eurogamer sites across Europe. So it was our favourite game on show at the show. So to Patrick and Lars, here is the award.
Thank you very
special
much.
Gloves.
I'll try to not touch it too much.
Congratulations.
Thank you
very much. Much appreciated.
Handled with proper care, the award takes pride of place in the DICE cabinet alongside a BAFTA, no less.
99 problems, but a bitch ain't one.
That award was granted largely on the strength of the multiplayer action seen in the stunning Caspian Border trailer. But Battlefield 3 also has a story to tell.
The history of DICE obviously is as a multiplayer studio, so there was in the kind of history of the company, we took the first tentative steps into single player with BC1, and then I kind of worked on it again with Mirror's Edge, and then we refined it with BC2. And I think even though as you pointed out, there is a movement towards multiplayer for a variety of reasons, which are keeping the user base and everything. There's a it's hugely important to us actually to have single player as a kind of the thing that identifies the tone of the game.
So what is Battlefield 3 about?
I guess you'd say it's how much would you really do for your country? And that's a theme that kind of permeates the whole of the game, not just the main character you play, but the other characters. And that takes shape in a number of different ways that will, you know, have a certain impact in the game. You know, what is patriotism, or what would you do given a certain set of circumstances? And is this the right thing, or is this the wrong thing?
I need you to find our Marines and bring them back safe ASAP before the PLR find them. Move out.
I don't know if ethically challenging is the right phrase, but it is in a certain sense, I think, and that's new for us.
The great unsung heroes of development are often the people responsible for how a game sounds. And in one trying to make you feel like you're in a war zone, audio is a huge part of the Battlefield experience.
For this game, we wanted a soundscape that wasn't constructed as much as in our previous games. We wanted a game that didn't sound as if it was edited, if you know what I mean. It was an unedited version of war, is what we wanted.
Tango's by the military warrior parking lot! They're flanking! Moving! Right there! Right there! Contact left!
I think the power of that is also in being very true to the sounds that you capture and selecting them very carefully, of course.
Battlefield 3 wants to stand apart from the other big Western shooters. The approach to the soundtrack is all part of that.
In some scenes in single player, for example, which is about this. This is the music. And so what it does with the scene is it adds an element of urgency. We went away from orchestral music completely because our soundscape, we recognized it's very dense, of course. It needed something very small to just accompany in the narrative in single player. It didn't need a big score slapped on top of it. I actually hate that. So we're very sparse with music, and I think a lot of listeners will never notice that it's there.
The game does not exist in a vacuum, of course, and no one is more aware of this than DICE. Battlefield 3 has been deliberately positioned by EA as a heavyweight challenger to a certain other shooter due out this autumn. To its credit, DICE remains focused solely on the business at hand.
It adds pressure to the team because to us we're not trying to, you know, take down someone else. We're not trying to make, you know, the other game. We are trying to make the best Battlefield game that we've ever made. We're not straying away from the formula. We're not straying away from our own ideas. We are looking at our own stuff, maybe a bit too much at times, because sometimes you forget to look at what everyone else is doing. But of course it adds a lot of pressure when people's expectations are that maybe we should do something else rather than doing what we're doing.
You know, we don't go out looking to be consciously different, but I think that there's we have our own thing that we want to do, and it isn't that. I think it is a very different feeling that we're going after, in the same way that we don't want to always have the meter pegged at like 11. You know, when it comes to pacing, we do want 1 to 10 or 1 to 11, as it were.
I think our biggest driving force is, though, you know, our own. The team's kind of urge to create something that they love to play and something they feel is, you know, the next generation of shooters.
With work on the game now drawing to a close, Battlefield's millions of fans will soon know whether the experience lives up to the hype. One thing that can't be faltered is the studio's ambition.
The original idea with the game was to create a better emotion of actually being there, you know, a more mature experience where audio, animation, visuals, everything plays together and creates this, you know, higher experience than what you've seen in games before. I think everyone is longing for the day when games are starting to become a more cinematic and realistic experience, and I think we have been pushing this quite hard, and I'm hoping that people can actually play the game and take that away, and when they go back to other games they will actually feel the difference without maybe knowing exactly what the difference was, because there are so many elements that we've been working with to create this emotion, and I hope that people will get that emotion when they play it.
Coming up in the third and final episode of our series on Battlefield 3, we go in depth and in hard with multiplayer. And find out what you think.
Woo!